The rain stung his face like 1,000 tiny needles, but Caleb didn't care. He stood outside the old Victorian house in San Francisco's Castro district, his heart pounding louder than the storm. His family, his mother, father, and 2 sisters, had just slammed the door in his face, their voices still echoing, "You're no son of ours." Caleb was 22, lanky, with pale skin and hazel eyes that always seemed to carry a quiet storm of their own. He'd known this day might come, but not like this, not with such raw, cutting rejection. Just hours ago, he'd sat them down in the living room, the one with the faded floral wallpaper and the creaky oak floor, and told them he was gay. He'd hoped for understanding, maybe even love. Instead, his father's face had twisted into something unrecognizable. His mother had wept as if he'd died, and his sisters had stared at the floor, silent. "Get out," his father had said, voice cold as the February rain now soaking Caleb's jacket. "You're not welcome here anymore." He stood there, shivering, clutching a duffel bag with everything he owned. Some clothes, a few books, and a photo of him and his sisters at a county fair, all grins and cotton candy. The photo felt heavier than the bag itself. How had it come to this? He'd grown up in that house, played tag in the backyard, helped his mom bake Christmas cookies. Now it was as if he'd never existed to them. The door didn't open again. No one called him back. He turned, the rain blurring his vision, or maybe it was tears, and walked into the night. San Francisco streets were alive despite the downpour. The Castro, with its rainbow flags and neon-lit bars, felt like a world apart from the suffocating silence of his family's rejection. Caleb wandered, his sneakers squelching, until he found himself outside a small cafe called Haven. Its warm golden light spilled onto the wet pavement, promising shelter. He pushed open the door, the bell jingling softly, and stepped inside. The cafe was cozy, with mismatched chairs and walls covered in local art. A few patrons sipped coffee, their conversations a low hum. Behind the counter stood a guy about Caleb's age, with tousled brown hair and a smile that felt like a lifeline. "Rough night?" the barista asked, his voice warm but not pitying. Caleb nodded, dripping water onto the floor. "You could say that." "I'm Ethan," the barista said, sliding a mug of coffee across the counter without being asked. "On the house. You look like you need it." Caleb managed a weak smile, wrapping his hands around the mug. Ethan was lean, with sharp cheekbones and green eyes that seemed to see right through him, not in a judgmental way, but like he understood. They talked as the cafe emptied out, Ethan wiping down tables while Caleb poured out his story. He didn't mean to tell a stranger about his family's betrayal, about the ache in his chest that wouldn't quit. But Ethan listened, really listened, and when Caleb finished, Ethan leaned against the counter and said, "You're not alone, you know? This city, it's got a way of catching people who fall." That night, Caleb slept on a cot in the cafe's back room, Ethan's doing. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, Haven became his anchor. Ethan helped him find a cheap room to rent nearby, introduced him to friends who didn't care who he loved, and showed him the city's hidden corners. Hole-in-the-wall taco joints, secret rooftop views, and quiet parks where they'd sit and talk for hours. Ethan was openly gay, confident in a way Caleb envied. He'd grown up in a small town too, but his family had embraced him. "They're not perfect," Ethan said one day, tossing a pebble into a pond. "But they try. That's what matters." Caleb wanted to believe he could build a life here, one where he wasn't defined by his family's rejection. But the hurt lingered, a bruise that throbbed every time he passed a family laughing together or saw a missed call from his sister, only to realize it was a pocket dial. He threw himself into work, landing a job as a cashier at a bookstore while taking night classes in graphic design. Ethan was there through it all, his presence steady and warm. One evening, as they sat on a hill overlooking the city, Ethan reached for Caleb's hand. The touch was electric, tentative but sure. Caleb's heart raced, not from fear but from something new, hope. "I don't know how to do this," Caleb admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Ethan squeezed his hand. You don't have to. Just be here. With me. Their first kiss was soft, hesitant, under a sky streaked with pink and gold. Caleb felt like he was breathing for the first time in months. But even as he fell for Ethan, the weight of his family's rejection clung to him. He'd see his mother's face in his dreams, hear his father's voice telling him he was a disgrace. He wanted to move on, but part of him still longed for their acceptance, for a way back to the people who'd raised him. Months turned into a year. Caleb and Ethan grew closer, their lives intertwining like the roots of an old tree. They moved into a tiny apartment together, a place with peeling paint and a leaky faucet, but filled with laughter and late-night talks. Caleb was designing logos for local businesses now, his talent catching attention. Ethan was studying to be a social worker, driven by a need to help kids like them, kids who'd been cast out. Life wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Then, one ordinary Tuesday, everything changed. Caleb stopped at a corner store to buy a lottery ticket on a whim, something he rarely did. He scratched it off in the store, expecting nothing. Instead, the numbers aligned, and his world tilted. $50 million. The clerk gasped, the other customers stared, and Caleb stood frozen, the ticket trembling in his hand. He didn't tell anyone at first, not even Ethan. The weight of it was too much. He went to a lawyer, verified the win, and set up a trust, all in a daze. The news broke a week later. His name splashed across headlines. Local man wins $50 million jackpot. Suddenly, the world wanted a piece of him. Reporters camped outside his apartment. Strangers sent emails begging for money. And then the call came. It was his mother. Her voice was soft, almost unrecognizable. Caleb, she said. We need to talk. Caleb's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, his mother's name glowing on the screen. He stared at it, his heart caught in his throat. Ethan, chopping vegetables for dinner, glanced over. You okay? He asked, his knife pausing mid-slice. Caleb didn't answer right away. He hadn't heard his mother's voice in over a year, not since she'd stood silently as his father banished him. Now here she was, calling just days after the lottery news broke. He wanted to believe it was guilt, maybe love, but doubt gnawed at him. He pressed accept and held the phone to his ear. Caleb, his mother said, her voice trembling. It's been too long. We miss you. He gripped the counter, his knuckles white. Miss me? He said, his voice sharper than he intended. You didn't miss me when you let Dad throw me out. There was a pause, then a sob. We were wrong, she said. I was wrong. Please, can we see you? Your sisters. They want to see you too. Caleb's chest tightened. He wanted to scream, to ask why it took $50 million for them to care. But he also remembered her laugh, the way she'd hum while gardening, the way she'd tucked him in as a kid. I'll think about it, he said finally, and hung up. Ethan set the knife down and crossed the room, pulling Caleb into a hug. You don't owe them anything, he said softly. Not a damn thing. But Caleb wasn't so sure. The money had changed everything. He wasn't just the kid they'd rejected anymore. He was a headline, a power they couldn't ignore. Part of him wanted to see them grovel, to make them feel the weight of their betrayal. Another part just wanted his family back. The next day, his sister Lauren texted, Can we meet? I'm sorry, Caleb. I was scared back then. Then his other sister, Mia, sent a long email, filled with apologies and memories of their childhood. His father stayed silent, but Caleb knew he was behind it all, the man who'd always controlled the family's pulse. Caleb agreed to meet them at a neutral spot, a quiet park near the bay. Ethan insisted on coming, not to interfere but to be there, a steady hand on Caleb's shoulder. The park was crisp with autumn air, leaves crunching underfoot. Caleb saw them from a distance. His mother, her hair grayer than he remembered. Lauren, fidgeting with her scarf. Mia, clutching a coffee cup. And his father, stiff and unreadable. They stood by a bench, looking out of place in the city they'd rarely visited. Caleb's stomach churned as he approached, Ethan a step behind. "Caleb," his mother said, stepping forward, her eyes wet. "You look good." He nodded, unsure what to say. Lauren rushed forward, hugging him tightly. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Mia joined in, her arms trembling. His father hung back, his jaw tight, but his eyes flickered with something. Regret, maybe, or calculation. "We made a mistake," his mother said, her voice breaking. "We were scared, confused. But you're our son. We want you back." Caleb's throat burned. He wanted to believe them, but the timing was too perfect. "Why now?" he asked, his voice low. "Because of the money?" His father finally spoke, his voice gruff. "Don't be ridiculous, Caleb. We're family. Money doesn't change that." But it did. Caleb saw it in the way Lauren's eyes darted away, in the way his mother's hands twisted together. They talked for an hour, apologies piling up, but Caleb felt the undercurrent of expectation. They asked about his life, his plans, and then subtly about the lottery. "You must be overwhelmed," his mother said. "We could help, manage things." Ethan squeezed Caleb's hand under the table, a silent reminder. "You're not alone." Caleb stood, his decision clear. "I need time," he said. "I'll call you." Back at the apartment, Caleb paced, his mind a storm. Ethan sat on the couch, watching him. "They're not here for you," Ethan said gently. "They're here for what you have." "I know," Caleb said, but the words felt hollow. He wanted to hate them, to cut them off for good, but the kid inside him, the one who'd loved them, wouldn't let go. Over the next few weeks, the calls and texts kept coming. His family was relentless, their apologies growing more polished. They sent gifts, books, a scarf, a photo album of old family pictures. Caleb's resolve wavered. He started meeting them without Ethan, small coffee dates with his sisters, then a tense dinner with his parents. His father was softer now, even cracking a joke, but Caleb couldn't shake the feeling that it was all a performance. Meanwhile, Caleb's life was spiraling. The lottery win brought vultures. Old acquaintances, distant cousins, even a former teacher, all with sob stories and outstretched hands. He hired a financial advisor, a sharp woman named Rachel who helped him invest wisely and set up a foundation to support LGBTQ youth. The work gave him purpose, but it also made him a target. Reporters dug into his past, splashing his family's rejection across tabloids. "Lottery winner disowned for being gay," one headline screamed. Ethan was his rock, but even their relationship strained under the pressure. Caleb was distracted, snapping at small things, haunted by his family's sudden return. One night, after a fight about Caleb's late nights working on the foundation, Ethan grabbed his jacket. "I'm not your enemy," he said, his voice breaking, "but I can't keep watching you tear yourself apart for people who hurt you." Caleb stood alone in the apartment, the silence deafening. He'd fought so hard to build this life, but now it felt like it was slipping away. His family's voices echoed in his head, promising love, but at what cost? He sank onto the couch, the lottery ticket, now framed on the wall, mocking him. Power, it seemed, came with a price. Caleb woke to the buzz of his phone. Another text from his mother. "Dinner tonight? We'd love to see you." He stared at the screen, the words blurring. It had been 2 months since the lottery win, and his family's persistence was wearing him down. He wanted to believe they'd changed, but Ethan's words lingered. "They're here for what you have." He hadn't spoken to Ethan in days, not since their fight. The apartment felt empty without him, the silence a reminder of what Caleb risked losing. He typed a quick reply to his mother, "Maybe next week," and headed to the foundation's office. The space was small but vibrant, with posters of smiling teens and a rainbow flag in the corner. Rachel, his advisor, was already there, sorting through grant applications. "You look like hell," she said, not looking up. "Thanks," Caleb muttered, dropping into a chair. "Family stuff." She raised an eyebrow. "The ones who kicked you out? Let me guess. They're back because you're a millionaire." Caleb winced. Rachel had a way of cutting through the noise. They say they're sorry, he said. But I don't know what to believe. Don't believe anything, she said, tossing a pen onto the desk. People change when money's involved. You want my advice? Protect yourself. And fix things with Ethan before you lose the one person who actually cares. Caleb nodded, but his mind was elsewhere. He spent the day reviewing applications from kids like him. Teens disowned, struggling, desperate for a lifeline. Each story hit like a punch, reminding him of that rainy night outside his family's house. He wanted to help them all, but the foundation's funds, even with his millions, weren't infinite. He needed to be smart, strategic, qualities he wasn't sure he had. That evening, he walked to Haven, the cafe where it all began. Ethan was behind the counter, his smile fading when he saw Caleb. "Hey," Caleb said, his voice tentative. "Hey," Ethan replied, wiping his hands on a towel. "You okay?" "No," Caleb admitted. "I miss you. I'm sorry I've been distant." Ethan's expression softened, but there was a guardedness Caleb hadn't seen before. "You've got a lot going on," Ethan said, "but you're letting them pull you back into their mess. Your family, they don't get to hurt you again just because they're sorry now." Caleb wanted to argue, to say it wasn't that simple, but he knew Ethan was right. They talked for hours, the cafe emptying around them, just like that first night. Ethan didn't push, didn't demand, but his presence grounded Caleb in a way nothing else could. When they parted, Ethan hugged him tightly. "Figure out what you want, Caleb," he said, "not what they want." The next day, Caleb agreed to meet his family for dinner at a fancy restaurant downtown. His mother had insisted, saying it was a chance to start fresh. The place was all glass and chandeliers, far from the cozy diners of his childhood. His parents and sisters were already there, dressed like they were trying to impress. His father even smiled, a rare sight. The conversation started light, small talk about the weather, the city. But as the wine flowed, the truth slipped out. His mother mentioned a family project, something about renovating their house. Lauren talked about her struggling art gallery, how a little investment could save it. Mia hinted at college debt, her eyes hopeful. His father was blunt. "You've got the means now, Caleb. You could set us all up for life." Caleb's fork froze midair. He'd known this was coming, but hearing it so plainly stung. "So that's why you're here," he said, his voice steady despite the ache in his chest. "Not for me. For the money." His mother's face crumpled. "That's not true," she said. "We love you." "Then why didn't you call before the lottery?" Caleb snapped. "Why did it take $50 million for you to care?" The table went silent. His father's jaw tightened, but he didn't speak. Lauren reached for Caleb's hand, but he pulled away. "I wanted to believe you," he said, standing. "But you haven't changed." He walked out, the city lights blurring through tears. Back at the apartment, he called Ethan, who came over without hesitation. They sat on the couch, Caleb's head on Ethan's shoulder, and for the first time in weeks, he felt like he could breathe. But the drama wasn't over. The next morning, a tabloid ran a story. Lottery winner's family begs for forgiveness and a cut. His mother had spoken to a reporter, painting herself as a grieving parent desperate to reconnect. The betrayal cut deeper than the first time. Caleb's phone buzzed with messages from friends, strangers, even a cousin he hadn't seen in years. Everyone had an opinion, a demand, a judgment. He turned to the foundation, pouring his energy into it. He and Rachel launched a scholarship program for LGBTQ youth, named it Haven after the cafe. The work was grueling but fulfilling, a reminder that he could build something good from the chaos. Ethan was there too, volunteering when he wasn't in class, his belief in Caleb unwavering. One night, as they painted the foundation's office, Ethan turned to Caleb, paint smudged on his cheek. "You're doing something amazing," he said. "Don't let them take that from you." Caleb smiled, his first real smile in weeks. "I won't," he said, "and I won't let them take you either." The The foundation's launch event was a whirlwind of hope and chaos. The small office was packed with donors, volunteers, and teens who'd benefited from the scholarships. Caleb stood at the front, his tie slightly crooked, delivering a speech he'd rehearsed a dozen times. "This is for every kid who's been told they're not enough," he said, his voice steady despite the nerves. "You are enough, and you're not alone." The crowd applauded. Ethan's clapped the loudest. Caleb caught his eye, and for a moment the world felt right. But as he stepped off the stage, his phone buzzed. It was Mia, his youngest sister, asking to meet. Against his better judgment, he agreed to see her alone at a nearby diner. Mia looked different, older somehow, though only a year had passed. She slid into the booth, her hands fidgeting. "I didn't know about the tabloid," she said. "Mom didn't tell us she was talking to them." Caleb stirred his coffee, unconvinced. "Why should I believe you?" "Because I was wrong too," she said, her voice cracking. "I didn't stand up for you when Dad kicked you out. I was scared, Caleb. But I miss you. Not the money, you." Her words hit hard, stirring memories of their childhood. Late-night talks, sneaking cookies, her tagging along to his soccer games. But trust was a fragile thing, and Caleb wasn't sure he had any left. "I need time," he said, echoing his words from months ago. She nodded, tears in her eyes, and left without pushing. Back at the foundation, Caleb threw himself into work, but the media storm grew. His family's story was everywhere, twisted into a soap opera. His mother gave another interview, claiming they'd always supported him. His father started a blog, of all things, preaching about family values, while subtly asking for donations. The hypocrisy made Caleb's blood boil, but it also drew attention to the foundation. Donations poured in, and applications for scholarships tripled. Ethan noticed the toll it was taking. One night, as they lay in bed, he traced circles on Caleb's back. "You can't keep carrying them," he said. "You're building something bigger than their mess." Caleb nodded, but the weight of it all, family, money, fame, was crushing. He started seeing a therapist, a kind woman named Dr. Ellis who helped him untangle his anger and guilt. "You're allowed to love them and still protect yourself," she said. "You don't owe them forgiveness." Those words stuck with him. He began setting boundaries, ignoring his family's calls and focusing on the foundation. He and Ethan planned a gala to raise more funds, a black tie event at a downtown hotel. The night was a success, with speeches from teens who'd found hope through the scholarships. Caleb watched them, his heart swelling with pride, but also with a nagging fear. What if his family showed up? They didn't, but the next morning his father sent an email, "We're proud of what you're doing. Let's talk about how we can support you." Caleb deleted it, his hands shaking. He was done with their games. Weeks later, a letter arrived. Not an email, but actual mail, handwritten by Mia. It was short, raw, no mention of money. She wrote about missing their talks, about how she'd started volunteering at a local LGBTQ center because of him. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she wrote, "but I'm trying to be better." Caleb read it over and over, torn between hope and caution. He showed it to Ethan, who read it silently, then handed it back. "She sounds genuine," he said, "but you decide what's next." Caleb decided to meet her again, this time with Ethan. They chose a park, neutral ground. Mia was nervous but open, talking about her work at the center, about how she'd stood up to their father when he tried to spin Caleb's success for his blog. For the first time, Caleb felt a flicker of trust. He didn't forgive her, not yet, but he didn't shut her out either. The foundation grew, and so did Caleb's confidence. He started speaking at events, sharing his story, not just the lottery, but the rejection, the rebuilding. People listened, and the foundation expanded, opening a second office in Oakland. Ethan was by his side, their love a quiet strength amid the noise. But the past wasn't done with Caleb. One evening, as he and Ethan walked home, a car pulled up. His father stepped out, alone, his face lined with something Caleb couldn't read. Shame, maybe, or desperation. "Caleb," he said, We need to talk. Just you and me. Caleb froze, the streetlights casting long shadows across his father's face. Ethan tensed beside him, ready to step in, but Caleb held up a hand. 5 minutes, he said to his father, his voice firm. Say what you need to say. His father nodded, his usual bravado gone. They walked to a nearby bench, Ethan staying a few steps back, giving them space but watching closely. The air was cool, the city humming around them. Caleb's father sat, his hands clasped tightly. I was wrong, he said, the words heavy, like they'd been trapped for years. I didn't understand you. I thought I was protecting the family, but I lost you instead. Caleb waited, his heart pounding. He dreamed of this moment, his father's apology, but now it felt hollow. Why now? He asked, echoing his question from months ago. What's changed? His father's eyes dropped to the ground. Everything. You're doing things I never imagined, helping people, building something real. I'm not asking for money, Caleb. I'm asking for a chance to make this right. Caleb wanted to believe him, but the scars were deep. He thought of his mother's tears, his sister's apologies, all tainted by the shadow of his wealth. You threw me out, he said, his voice shaking. You made me feel like nothing. Do you know what that did to me? His father's face crumpled, and for the first time, Caleb saw him as human, not the towering figure of his childhood. I know, his father said, and I'll carry that shame forever. But I'm here, Caleb. I'm trying. Caleb stood, his emotions a tangled mess. I can't do this now, he said. Maybe someday, but not now. His father nodded, standing slowly. I'll wait, he said, and walked back to his car, leaving Caleb staring at the empty bench. Ethan was there in an instant, his arms around Caleb. You okay? He asked. No, Caleb said, but he leaned into Ethan, drawing strength from his warmth. But I will be. The next few months were a turning point. Caleb focused on the foundation, which was now a beacon for LGBTQ youth across California. He hired more staff, expanded programs, and even started mentoring a few teens himself. Their stories of rejection, resilience, hope mirrored his own, and helping them healed parts of him he hadn't realized were still broken. Mia became a quiet presence in his life. She kept volunteering, kept reaching out, not pushing but showing up. Caleb started to trust her, little by little inviting her to foundation events, introducing her to Ethan. She wasn't perfect, but she was trying, and that meant something. His parents faded into the background. His mother sent occasional texts, his father stayed silent, and Caleb let them be. He wasn't ready to forgive, but he didn't hate them anymore. The anger had softened into something else. Acceptance, maybe, or just peace. One spring evening, Caleb and Ethan stood on a hill overlooking the city, the same spot where they'd shared their first kiss. The sky was ablaze with color, the Golden Gate Bridge a silhouette in the distance. Caleb took Ethan's hand, his heart full. I wouldn't have made it through this without you, he said. Ethan smiled, his eyes bright. You're stronger than you think. But I'm glad I'm here. They kissed, the world fading around them. Caleb thought of the boy he'd been, standing in the rain, abandoned. He wasn't that boy anymore. He'd built a life, a purpose, a love that no one could take away. The lottery had given him power, but it was his choices, his courage, his heart that defined him. The foundation thrived, a testament to what love and resilience could do. Caleb didn't need his family's approval anymore, didn't need their apologies. He had Ethan, the kids he helped, the life he'd created. And in that moment, under the San Francisco sky, he knew he was enough.